Hello, I'm Doug Watches. Welcome to the LocksmithDVD training program. The subject of this course is how to master key locks. Just like other skills addressed so far, this is an essential skill and a common request for locksmiths from homeowners and business owners alike. If you are called on to master key a business and you offer quality service, you are just about guaranteed to have that customer forever. After completing this course, you should be able to list the basic tools used in master keying, explain the differences between master keying locks and keying locks alike, explain the basic process of master keying, list 6 basic rules for designing a master key system, list the basic codes for a 4-level master key system, generate key combinations for a master key system, explain how the HPC 1200 code machine works, explain how to use space and depth keys, explain how to add a lock to a master key system, explain the basic steps in using a master key software. This course is divided into 8 parts. Part 1 is tools needed to master key. Part 2 is to construct a master key system. Part 3 is code machines. Part 4 is space and depth keys. Part 5, pinning locks. Part 6, adding a lock set. Part 7, master key software. And Part 8 is suggested practice. This is a Lab 003 pin kit, and we have shown this in previous courses, but just to go over the components quickly, we have bottom pins, we have top pins, and we also have master pins in this kit. And we should know how to use the bottom pins and the top pins already from the rekeying course that we did. And now we're going to, in this course, work with the master pins. These are the smallest master pins in this kit. They're 24 thousandths, and you can see that they're quite tiny. It's 27 thousandths, 30 thousandths, and so on. They go by 3 thousandths since this is an 003 kit. And with these little pins, you may want to get a pair of tweezers to work with to be able to pick those up and place those. Now, we're going to try to avoid using these very small pins, and I'll talk about this as we go through the course, but just for right now, the smaller the pins, especially these little tiny ones, the greater the chance that they can cause the lock to malfunction. I normally like to stay with the pins that are 30 thousandths and larger, and I really prefer to work with the ones that are 45 thousandths and larger. But in a real large complex system, it may be necessary to use the smaller pins. Now, I also have an 005 lab pin kit, and occasionally I will pull pins from this kit. Be aware that even using 2 different kits, the pins may not match exactly to the manufacturer's specifications. We can usually get within 2 or 3 thousandths. You can see in the 05 kit, the master pins are in increments of 5 thousandths, with the smallest one being 10 thousandths. Now, I'm sure you remember that on the back of the cover, there's information about the locks from the major manufacturers. And again, we're going to be looking at Kwikset in this course. And just to review, the information shows the depth of cut, which pin to use for each cut. Like for a number 3 pin, we use a 216 bottom pin from this kit. It also shows the master pins. And so if we have, for example, a number 2 cut for the master pin, we would use the 45 thousandths pin. And again, I'm going to just try to use 45 thousandths and larger, as I've already discussed. So it shows a top pin at 180 thousandths. If you need a top pin, that'd be the one you would pull for the top pin. Okay, I'm sure you remember that the effective diameter and other information is here on the back of the panel also, and with the Kwikset, your effective diameter is 498 thousandths. The distance to the first cut is 247 thousandths, and then between cuts 150 thousandths, so we have a max of 5. Now with Kwikset, a max of 5, we don't normally have to pay too much attention to that. We don't normally use a 7 cut. We can, but it's unusual to use a 7 cut in a Kwikset lock. And so even if we go from a 1 to a 6, a difference of 5, we haven't violated the max. So it is somewhat difficult to violate the max in a quickset lock, although it can be done. Now with the equivalent diameter of 498 thousandths, what that means is that the depth of the cut of the key plus the bottom pin that we normally use in keying a lock should equal the 498 thousandths. For example, if we have a number 3 cut, we use a 282 thousandths cut on the key, a 216 thousandths bottom pin, and you can see that if you add those together, you'll get 498 thousandths. So we've been doing that. We don't have to add it up because the chart tells us which pin to use. And now, instead of using a key that just will work with a normal cut plus a bottom pin, we might add, and we will be adding, master pins. So if we have the depth of cut and we have a smaller bottom pin, we can make up the difference with the master pin and still get effective diameter that we need to get to the shear line. So I have a quickset plug here. Just pulled this out of an old lock. See, the bottom pins are still in there. And if we were to measure this, you can see here it's showing on the digital caliper, it actually shows 498 thousandths, just like it's supposed to right there. So that's the effective diameter of the plug. So I have a key here, with a quickset key with a number 3 cut. Just go ahead and measure that. What we're going to measure is the thickness of the key here below the cut. You can see right there we got 281.5, or right at 282 thousandths. Could have a little bit of wear on it. So we would add to that our bottom pin of 216 thousandths to get our 498 thousandths. So that again shows the depth of the cut of the key and the bottom pin coming up to the shear line of 498 thousandths. As far as tools that we're going to use in master keying, it's basically the same type of tools that we're going to use in rekeying locks. You're going to need a pick set if you have to pick a lock open. Have some shim stock. Demonstrated how to use shim stock in the last course, course number 4. Core removal tool for the quickset lock. It'd be nice to have a plug holder. Screw cap removal tool is going to come in handy. Have an assortment of screwdrivers, both Phillips and flat. And of course followers. I've talked about followers quite a bit. Then there's a set from HPC, which I've shown before. It has different size followers. There's 4 different sizes, including the case can be used for a follower. Now, sooner or later, you're going to come across the lock. It's an odd size, and you're not going to have a follower that is going to be really ideal for the particular lock that you find. One thing you can do is to use the shaft end of a drill bit. So if you're on a job somewhere and you find an odd sized lock and you don't have a follower, and you have a set of drill bits with you, check your drill bits to see if you have one that will work. We're also going to use, of course, a key gauge. You want to have a good pair of tweezers. This set is made by Lab. You can see that the end is shaped to grab the pins. You can see how the ends are curved to make it easier to grab the pins and hold the pins. It is possible to master key all 4 categories of locks: warded, lever, disc, and pin tumbler. In this course, we will focus on master keying pin tumbler locks. To get us started in master keying, we are going to be working with 2 examples. The first one is a 2-level system, which will be a non-conforming system. In other words, it does not meet the industry standards for a master key system. It is a good example to start with, as there are millions of these in existence. In fact, when I started working in locksmithing 50 years ago, this is the way I was taught to do it. Then we will go over the standards and develop a system that conforms. Later in the course, I will demo a software that does most of the planning for us. Okay, as we get started in the master keying, I want to talk briefly about the theory behind master keying. I'd like to do a simple demonstration to start. Here I have a lock cylinder that's keyed up for two different keys. One of the keys is a 2 cut. Every cut on the key is a 2, and the other key has 5, is cut down to a 5 cut. So it's 3 cuts deeper. So these keys are much different from each other. But both keys will work this lock. So the reason that they can is because this key, this particular lock, is master keyed up for these two keys. It's a master key system. So even though the keys are much different, they will turn the same lock cylinder. So that's what we're talking about when we're doing master keying. Now sometimes people will call and they'll talk about a master key system, and they really mean keyed alike, where the same key fits a number of different locks. That's a common request when you rekey a house, is to make all of the locks alike so one key fits all of the locks. That's not a master key system, and so some consumers are a bit confused on that. A master key system means 2 or more different keys cut differently will turn the same lock cylinder. I have an illustration here that shows how the master key system works. If you studied the rekey video, you know that, and you're already familiar with, a normal lock is pinned up with a bottom pin, a top pin, and a spring. With the master key system, we add master pins to at least part of the chambers. So we have 3 pins in a chamber instead of just the 2. So as in this illustration here, we can see that this key being cut deeper here will still work with this cut, because we can get a shear line between the top of the master pin and the top pin. With this cut of the key here, we get the shear line between the bottom of the master pin and the top of the bottom pin. So we can get 2 different shear lines for each chamber, either at the bottom of the master pin or at the top of the master pin. So that allows us to have many combinations of keys that will fit the same lock, simply by adjusting the size of both the master pins and the bottom pins. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and take this lock apart so we can see exactly what's going on inside of it. I'm going to put the deeper cut key and the number 5 cut key in so that we can get all of the master pins to come out with the plug. Get this retainer clip off the back. Okay, and here you can see that all of the pins are flush with the shear line. This is with the 5 cut. I'm going to pull this key out and put the other key in the number 2 cut, and you can see that all of the little master pins are now riding right on top of the plug, because the bottom pins are now flush with the top of the plug, and you can see them there. Just to go through it one more time, that with the deeper cut key, the 5 cut, both the bottom pin and the master pin are now down inside the plug, even with the shear line, so the key works. And if I use the number 2 cut key, it works because it pushes the master pins up inside the shell and creates a shear line with just the bottom pins. We have a job to go on. It does require a master key system, and we're just going to go ahead and set this system up as a demonstration. The job that we have is for a duplex, where the owner wants a master key for himself, and then a different key for each duplex, so that each renter would have their own key. So this is a fairly common request. We get these from property owners. It could be a duplex, a fourplex, or a multiplex, even involving 70 or 80 or 100 apartments. But to start out, we're going to do this simple project and explain exactly how to go about setting up a master key system. Now, later in the video, I will talk about using software to go through and get all of the different numbers that we need for a larger master key system, but I really think it's important to work through some examples yourself and set up your own examples and your own master key systems just to get the experience, so that then you will understand exactly what a master key software is doing for you. And pull the key out of the key bucket for the master key. And the key that I pulled out was 23122. Those were the cuts of the key. So that'll be the master key system. Master key, and that key's already cut for us because we just pulled it from the key bucket. By key bucket, I mean a bucket of keys where I put original keys when I get them. I just toss them in there, and I have hundreds of different keys. Then we'll need a different cut for the other two keys. Okay, for duplex 1, I've chosen to cut the key at 45322, and I've made this a fairly simple cut to get a fairly simple example to explain master keying and to get you started master keying. So, realize that this is, I've intentionally made this to be a simple cut and a simple pinup. But overall, master keying is not difficult. It's a fairly simple process. And what we have to do is, that if we're going to have one key is cut with a 2 and one key is cut with a 4 for the first chamber, we're going to have pins in that chamber that will allow both keys to get to a shear line. Now, the way we go about doing it, very simply, we just take the smallest of the two numbers. So 2 and 4, the smallest number is 2. 3 and 5, the smallest number is 3. 1 and 3, 1. Then 2 and 2, being the same, we can just write down 2. Now, what we have here are the bottom pins. So the bottom pins will correlate with the smaller number from the two cuts of the two keys. Now, to get the master pins, all we have to do again is subtract. Now we subtract the bottom pin from the larger of the two numbers up here. 4 minus 2 is 2. 5 minus 3 is 2. 3 minus 1 is 2. And on chambers 4 and 5, we have 2s. So we won't need a master pin there because both keys have the same cut on chambers 4 and 5. So all we have to do now is pin up the lock for duplex 1. The bottom pins will be 23122. The master pins will be 222, and then no master pins in chambers 4 and 5, and the cut of the key will be 45322. Okay, for duplex number 2, we'll have the same master key, 23122. Now the cut of the key for duplex number 2, I've chosen 23344. 2, 3, 3, 4, and a 4. So that's what the cuts of the key will be. Now to get our bottom pins to make this work, again we take the smallest number of the two. In chamber 1 we have the same, we have a 2, so that's what the number is. In chamber 2 we have 2 3s, so it's got to be a 3. In chamber 3 we have a 1 and a 3, so the smallest is 1. And then in chamber 4 we have a 2 and a 4, the smallest is 2. And in the last one, chamber 5, we also have a 2. So those are the bottom pins. Now, remember, to get the master pins, all we have to do is subtract the bottom pin from the largest number from the first two rows. So 2 from a 2 is a 0, so there's no master pin in the first chamber. Same in the second chamber, we have 3s, so there'll be no master pin there. In the third chamber, we subtract 1 from the 3, that's the largest number up there, so we get a 2. In the fourth chamber, we have 2 from a 4, that's a 2. And in the fifth chamber, we have 2 from a 4, and that's a 2. So those will make up the master pins for duplex number 2. Then we have the bottom pins, and we have the cut of the key. So that's how you go about setting up a master key system. It's really quite simple. So you can see that setting up a small master key system like this duplex is pretty easy. I wanted to make the first example pretty simple just to get us started in master keying. And there are millions of small master key systems just like this one that you will come across. But know that this simple example does not follow the recognized format that has more or less become a standard practice in the locksmithing industry. So before we learn how to use the code machine and cut the keys for this duplex, I would like to cover some basic rules and procedures for creating a good master key system, and then create a system that does follow those rules. Okay, a few basic guidelines for setting up a master key system. Obviously, you want to be organized. It's usually best to have a diagram for the business that identifies where the locks go and what the codes for the locks are. You want to keep records, but at the same time, protect your customers' information. Do not put the name on documents that leave the office. Use a code. For example, you might have a used car lot that you're keying an office and maybe several offices and then a garage or something. That might be customer 136. Customer 137 might be an insurance office, and so on. And you would have a list of these codes in your office, but don't use their name on documents that you have on the site and somebody could accidentally get a hold of them. Keep a simple system. Very large systems can be broken down into subsystems. We want to use recognized coding for the locks, and I'm going to go over that in just a minute. Use a progression system, sequence of progression for the cuts. I'm going to explain that also in just a minute. And our system should allow for expansion. So if we have a customer that has 20 locks, we need to have another 7 or 8 or maybe 10 different combinations that are available in case we have to go back and add more locks for that customer. So allow for expansion. The purpose of a master key system is to provide convenience for those who use the system. The system has to maintain security, which means finding a balance between convenience and security. Adding master wafers to a lock automatically compromises the lock's security because it increases the risk of accidental cross-keying, and it adds more shear lines, which makes the lock easier to pick. Please take just a moment to like the video and also subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching.